let's get into the playoff conversation. And there's two ways the Broncos can make the playoffs. Because the Chiefs are, as Henry says, one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the NFL right now.
Yeah, they suck.
The Broncos can still make the playoffs by winning the division and hosting a playoff game. So maybe this actually isn't our last tailgate of the season if the Broncos win the AFC West. And that path is very straightforward. Broncos win their final 2 games, which would be including a win over the Raiders. So it doesn't matter what the Raiders do this week. The Raiders can win, fine, doesn't matter. Because then the Broncos can beat them in Week 18. And then the Chiefs have to lose out. And the Chiefs are at home this week to the Bengals. I believe they're a 7-point favorite. And then who did the Chiefs finish against? Oh, the Chargers.
Yep.
So then the Chargers would have to beat the Chiefs. If the Chiefs fall that far from grace and the Broncos win out, boom, they win the AFC West. If not, and we're talking about a playoff push or a wild card spot, things get a lot more messy. So let's break down what that path looks like. And we've got a graphic from, I believe, NFL playoff scenarios.com to kind of help us work through this. And Henry, why don't you take us through? This is for what the Broncos need this weekend, but you kind of mentioned it earlier. What do the Broncos need in general to make the playoffs?
So basically, the Browns have one of the wild card spots. That one's gone. So there's 2 left, and there's really, say, 4 things that could happen. Maybe it was like a couple more, but there's basically 4 things that could happen. With a win, either the Bills or the Steelers would not necessarily guarantee themselves one of those spots, but would guarantee that they're in front of the Broncos. And so the Broncos could not get one. So as soon as the Bills win a game, there's only 1 spot left that the Broncos could get. As soon as the Steelers win a game, there's only 1 spot left. And that's why in the elimination graphic there, you see they're just eliminated if the Bills and the Steelers both win this week. The Bills play Patriots, so that's likely. And so
the Bills are rolling too.
Yep.
But
so
Patriots, they're kind of putting
Patriots
things together
all of a sudden are also rolling. But yeah, so you got the Bills Patriots, and then after that, the Bills will play the Dolphins. So if somehow the Patriots pull it off, that's actually in pretty good shape.
You're right. Well, if the Bills win this week, then it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So that's what you're looking at. So you're kind of hoping for a miracle there, but if you get that miracle, you're actually in great shape for a wild card spot because the Bills will have a tough matchup. The Steelers, though, is where you really look and say they're on the road the next 2 weeks, first against the Seahawks and then against the Ravens. Those are 2 very losable games.
And the Seahawks are very much competing for playoffs right now, so they have everything to play for.
Yep. And so the way I look at it is you need the Steelers to lose those 2. You probably just accept that the Bills are going to win this weekend, and if not, the door's kind of more open, way more open next week. And then there's the third thing, and that is the AFC South. So the AFC South is a mess.
There's a nightmare.
There's 3 teams, all 8-6. The tiebreakers are weird. The Texans are in there because or the Texans are who the Broncos don't want to finish second. Yeah, exactly, tied with. So the winner will get the division title. They get the home game. They're not in the wild card race. And then you'll probably have 2 more teams potentially tied for that next spot. And what the Broncos want is for the Jaguars to be the number 2 team in that division because that's the team they win the tiebreaker with. And it gets kind of messy with like who they could tie and who all that works out. But that's what they really want is the Jaguars to finish second because then the Broncos get them in the tiebreaker as long as the Jaguars lose to the Titans next week on the road in what could be Derrick Henry's last game. So those are kind of how you look at it. Odds are the Jaguars do finish second probably, but they have to lose that game in particular. So what you need to be rooting for, essentially, root against the Steelers, root against the Bills. I guess before all that, root against the Chiefs because that's the very clear path also that maybe is a little bit optimistic, but you never know. Root against the Steelers, root against the Bills, root against the Chiefs, and then root for everybody in the AFC South to do the same thing. So that they continue to be tied because the way the tiebreakers work out, there's just a lot of ways.
Do the same thing. Explain that.
Either they all lose or they all win.
Either all lose or all win. And there's there's like quirks to that where if one wins and the other loses, then you want this one to win or lose. We don't need to get into that. But they all play, I think, at the same time. So you're rooting all win, all lose. Ideally, all lose, but it really doesn't matter all that much. So that's kind of where they stand. And again, by the numbers, they change consistently. It's usually right around 19%. If the Broncos win out, they make the playoffs. So 1 in 5. So I don't know. You roll a die at 19%. Roll a 6 and you got in.